Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to stick to Sweden and we're going to return to a brewery that's featured on the channel many times before. I've had some really nice beers from these guys over the last couple of years, a couple of different styles, but I think it is most definitely fair to say that these guys are best known for their different kinds of New England hazy, whatever you want to call them, IPAs. They're also a relatively new addition to the Swedish beer scene, but they have built a very, very strong reputation for themselves in their short lifetime so far. But the beer we're going to have a look at today is one of their latest releases through Systembolaget. It is supposed to be very, very nice, and it is one that I have to say I'm quite looking forward to. So needless to say, I'm very curious to see what this one's going to have in store for us. Hopefully it's another good beer, hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always, I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, we are going to head up towards Stockholm once again, the Swedish capital. We're going to go out to the west of the city to Örebro, and that means that we're going to have a look at another beer from the wonderful Apex Brewing Company. So this particular beer is called Meridian. It comes in at 8% ABV, and this one is another New England Hazy Imperial Double, whatever you want to call it, IPA. So yeah, this beer was released as part of the Lokalt Osmoskalig assortment through Systembolaget for November of 2022, and yeah, it was apparently brewed originally for Brewskival back in 2019. So yeah, this is a rebrew of a beer they did a good wee while ago. But yeah, very curious to see what it's going to have in store for us. We've had really good New England IPAs from Apex in the past, so let's crack on and see what we have in store for ourselves with this one then. So, as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Apex Brewing in the past, and we will no doubt add more to that list in the near future. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support you give is massively, massively appreciated. And remember, you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. Use your hometown, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you like. Go into the channel homepage, use those to search, and you will find some of your local beers, hopefully. But you can also check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You will find this one in the Swedish playlist, along with many, many others. But yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then and chat a little bit about Apex Brewing Company quickly. So, Apex Brewing Company, as I mentioned to you already, were originally based in Nora to the north of Örebro, and the company was founded back in 2017 by Daniel Gatchitz and Niklas Lundgren. So, both of these guys are musicians. Niklas played in the band 59 Times the Pain, whereas Daniel played in The Voice of a Generation. But Daniel and Niklas are responsible for the brewing operations within the company, but there are a few others in there as well who are doing the more kind of businessy side of things. So this is Leif Carlson, Ola Eriksson, and Roger Kjell, and they started off originally with a kind of small 500 litre brew kit and 6 fermentation tanks, and they were just selling their beers in the local area before they got them into Systembolaget. And I remember back in 2018 or so, we tried our first beer from Apex Brewing Company, and that was the single hop IPA, which was the Citra one, and I think they rebrewed that recently, if memory serves me correctly. But that was really nice, and you know, as I say, these guys are one of the kind of premier, if we can call them that, New England IPA brewers here in Sweden. But over 2018, they brewed around 35,000 litres, and this was about 25 different varieties, all of which were New England IPAs. And then the following year, they grew a little bit and brewed 120,000 litres across 2019. Over the following years, they started to export their beer a little bit. They started to spread it throughout throughout Europe, and I don't know if they went any further afield than that, but you know, Apex Brewing really started to build up their sales and build up their reputation. And then in the summer of 2021, they announced that they were going to move to a new premises in the Baytorp district of Örebro in the autumn. They have now moved there. They've got that all up and running, but they've upgraded their 500 litre brew kit to a 2,000 litre system, and they've added several new tanks to that. So they've got a lot more capacity these days. And as of November 2022, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 125 different kinds of beer, from what I understand, and they have been producing a few lagers recently. They've got their Keller series. There's a Pilsner, a Märzen, and I believe a Dunkel just about to be released as well, actually. So those are definitely worth trying. I'm quite curious to see what the Keller Dunkel is like, because the Keller Pils was pretty nice. The Märzen was pretty decent as well, I have to say. But yeah, as I say, this brewery really specialise when it comes to the New England hazies, but they are starting to expand and do a few other styles, which will be quite interesting to watch over the next little while. But yeah, that is everything I can really tell you about Apex Brewing for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on. And you can, of course, check out the Untappd page to learn more about the different beers, or check out some of my older reviews that I've done. So yeah, let's have a little look at this beer itself then. So just to let you have a wee look at the can art on this one. As you can see, it is typical from what we've seen from Apex before. This time we have some snakes. Usually it's a different animal, of course. There you can see one of their slogans, which is music, people and beer. But yeah, 8% New England Hazy Imperial Double, whatever you want to call it, IPA this time. Like I said, this beer, I believe, was originally, it was brewed for one of the Brewski Vals. I think it might be 2019 that it was brewed for, and they have decided to rebrew this one and release it through Systembolaget actually. So yeah, pretty cool. But to tell you about the hops and things in this one has Cashmere, Citra and Victoria's Secret. So yeah, Cashmere, as we know, about 14% alpha acid. It gives you that big melon note, but with a lot of lemon and lime as well. Citra is 14% alpha acid too. That's going to give you a big juicy kind of mangoey quality, but also some lemon limey notes. And Victoria's Secret, we know, Australian hop, about 12% alpha acid, and it gives you a lot of kind of passion fruit, mango and pineapple. So we should have quite a nice mix of tropical and citrusy flavours in this one. But the malt base in this beer is Maris Otter Extra Pale, Naked Oats, Torrefied Oats and Flaked Wheat. So yeah, it should be quite interesting to see what this one has in store for us. Like I said, this was released as part of the Lokal Småska League through Systembolaget for November of 2022. This can, I believe, cost me 55 Swedish kronor, so that's €5.50, £5 sterling, somewhere in the region of like $6 American. But yeah, nicely presented, this one, I have to say. It does look pretty good. So yeah, let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting then. Very curious to see what this beer is going to have in store for us. So let's do this. %, the Meridian 8% New England double IPA. So let me just put that down there. And yeah, there we go. So as you can see with this one, it's poured with about a 3/4 finger of a frothy, I would say, perfect white head. That's a lovely head on this one instantly. I mean, just look at the foam there. This one is very, very foamy. Lovely, very small bubbles there. A few bigger ones up to further up, of course, and that will fade away to be a thinner foamy layer as we let the beer sit a little bit. But anyway, in terms of the colour of this beer, for me, this one's a lovely kind of pale, bright yellow. It's a sort of mango, pineapple juice type colour, this one. I always like comparing New England IPAs to different fruit juices because that's just what they remind me of. But yeah, remember, the colour of your beer depends on 1, the type of malts you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. 2, length of your wort boil is also going to play a role. So the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, thus you get a darker colour of beer. Any barrel aging you do or adjuncts you put in can affect the colour of your beer too, but with IPAs you often, most of the time, 99.9% of the time, you don't have to care about that. But I also have to say, the level of haze in this one is pretty impressive too. This is one of the soupier and gloopier New Englands I think I've seen from Apex when I think about it. So remember, the haziness in these beers depends on the oat content, wheat content, and to a degree the yeast as well. But yeah, this one is definitely one of the soupier and gloopier New Englands I've seen. But yeah, it looks like a very nice kind of mangoey, pineapple type colour that comes out of this one. So yeah, this does look pretty damn nice, I have to say. So yeah, other than that, there's not too much in the way of visible carbonation, just a few little bubbles going up toward the surface there, but I don't think we need to say any more about the appearance of this beer. We can move on and have a wee look at the aroma then. So let's do this, let's see what we have. Oh yeah, that's pretty damn nice. Yeah, aroma-wise, this one, yeah. It's, for me, this is really interesting. As I've always said to you, there are 6 ways or 6 elements I think you should look for in a New England IPA. Sort of farmhousey, yeasty character, rye-lean and grainy sort of notes. Those are more common in American brewed New Englands. You also got wheaty bitiness, oaty creaminess, barley malt bread, and sweetness, of course, the malty sweetness. And usually these IPAs will show you a good little bit of everything. And this beer, for me, is actually showing a little bit of that. You can get a little bit of almost everything in this. Not the rye, right enough, but you're getting a wee bit of everything else. And I've got a feeling that this one might turn out to be one of the most well-rounded New Englands that we've had from Apex so far. We've had some very good ones, so that's a statement that shouldn't be taken lightly. But the first impression of this one is that it's a big, oily, juicy New England IPA. I think the oats are a wee bit more prominent. The green component is very smooth and quite soft, actually. And yeah, you can kind of smell the balance between the more kind of citrusy fruits in this one and also the lighter, juicy tropical notes. So it's a really good, it is a really good, a really nice aroma that you get off of this one. It seems like it's going to be very, very well balanced. So yeah, I do quite like how this beer goes about its business, needless to say. So, yeah, on the hoppy side of things, then first off, you can tell as well that this beer has a lot of late edition and a lot of early edition, a lot of late edition and a lot of dry hopping in this one. But let's start off with the malty aroma first off. So backbone of this beer, absolutely, you get a little bit of that typical, you know, fresh white bready bread crust. That's forming the backbone of the beer. It almost smells as if there's a little bit of flour kind of just still left on it. But above that, of course, lots and lots of white bread, and that's the barley malt that's going to give you that, and the wheat is going to thicken it out. With this beer, it actually, you know, it smells really fluffy and really light and very, very fresh. So yeah, I do like how that goes together. And aroma wise, yeah, it is very, very nice. So yeah, aroma wise, this one, it is very good. So yeah, bit of fresh bread crust, as we say, fluffy white bread, quite, you know, it has a little bit of density to it. You can smell the wheat in this one is quite smooth. You get a little touch of bitiness from the wheat in the very back of your nose, so you definitely get some of that there. But yeah, lots of fresh fluffy white bread, a big kind of thick, you know, smooth wheaty character to this one. But then on top of that, you get a lot of lovely kind of thick, creamy oats, and they go together really, really nicely in this beer. So the oaty notes for me, as I've always said, oats are a good indicator of how fresh your New England IPA is. The kind of creamier they are, the fresher the beer is, the slightly more drier they are, the older the New England IPA will be. So you need to bear that in mind with these beers. But yeah, for me, this one, it's yeah, no, it's definitely got yeah, it's definitely got a little bit of a it definitely has a little bit of a yeah, it's got this lovely big kind of oaty creamy sort of note to it, as I say, and it almost has a little touch of like a kind of porridgey quality to it. You can smell that actually, which is really interesting. But then on top of all of that, you do get a nice little bit of sweetness out of this beer, which you would expect for one that's 8%, or is this 8.5? No, this is 8.0. Forgetting, yeah, 8% New England double, this one. So on top of that, you do get that lovely, you get a lovely little bit of straight up caramel with this one, but you also get a wee bit of that kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing. That's the Maris Otter that's going to do that. Maris Otter does give you that wee bit of caramel and the wee bit of biscuit. This is one of the few Apex I think I've had that doesn't have Golden Promise in it. These guys love a bit of Golden Promise in their beers, and so that's maybe why it smells a wee bit different actually. So yeah, a little bit of sweet caramel, a little bit of kind of butter candy, butterscotch, and you do have that little bit of biscuit all sitting on top of the nice oaty character in the beer. But then yeah, I think that's everything we need to say about the malt base. It takes a wee bit of time to come out actually, to be honest with you. But on the hoppy side of things then, let's have a little bit look at this. So on the hoppy side of things, the green component for me is quite the green component for me in this beer, you've got a nice little bit of earthiness for sure in this one, but that's quite minimal. The green component for me is actually leaning more toward a kind of brighter floral note, but you've also got a good little bit of zesty grassy character in there as well. So yeah, the way that this beer goes together in that sense is quite nice. So a lovely little bit of kind of floral aromaticity. You've also got that nice kind of big zesty grassy note as well. And yeah, aroma wise, like I say, it does go together pretty damn pretty damn nicely. So yeah, you can smell with this one though. It's a lot of late edition, a lot of dry hopping with this. Remember, early edition hopping, first hour of your wort boil gives you a lot of bitterness. Late edition hopping, last half hour of your wort boil, little bit of bitterness, mainly flavour aroma. Dry hopping, pretty much all flavour aroma. West Coast IPAs use all three. New England's rely mainly on the latter two, but often will have a little bit of early edition hopping. But with this one, the way you can tell is that if the aroma is, the green component is more bright rather than being big and dank, and this one has, yeah, a nice bright floral character and also a bit of that lighter grassiness as well. It's a lovely smelling beer, this, I have to say. But yeah, green component, yeah, bit of earth, nice little bit of floral character, and a wee bit of a smooth grassy note. The grassiness actually has a bit of zestiness, but it's also a little bit wetter, I would say. But on the fruity side of the beer, it is kind of what you'd expect, to be honest, from these hops. You get a little bit, you do get a little bit of kind of floral. Yeah, you do get a little bit, the floral character kind of backs up, but you get a nice big bit of that melon from the cashmere in this one, but you can also smell a good little bit of the lemon limey character. But then, you know, the Victoria's Secret is giving you the kind of more oily tropical fruits, I think, and the citrus kind of amplifying a little bit of the lemon lime. So there's a good bit of mango in this beer, and there's also, you know, there's a good bit of mango and a good little bit of pineapple for me. But then, yeah, oily melon underneath, and a good little bit of a lemon limey type character. So yeah, the way this beer goes together, I think, is very, very nice. So aroma wise, yeah, I think it goes together very, very well. Yeah, definitely one of the more oily and kind of thicker and creamier smelling New Englands that I think we're going to have had from Apex. So as I always say, take a wee bit of time to just enjoy the aroma of these beers before you get stuck into them. But I think it is time that we have a taste of this one and see what we have. So yeah, this one is the Meridian Double IPA, New England, 8% ABV from Apex Brewing Company in Örebro here in Sweden. Slange, skål, and cheers. Yeah, it's quite interesting that it's a lot more green and bitter, if you like, than I thought it was going to be. Interesting. Kind of interesting, sometimes you get beers that are very, very close to the aroma. You know, the flavour comes out exactly as you'd expect from the aroma, but sometimes you get beers where it is quite different. So yeah, this one's got a lot more bitterness to it than I thought it was going to. I would say when you take another sip of it, in fairness, it does kind of round itself out pretty nicely, actually. So yeah, the way that this beer goes together, I think, is very nice, actually. It's yeah, I wasn't quite expecting such a bitter one from this beer, but yeah, that is pretty nice. I'd be curious to know what the IBU count on this is. But we'll see. Let's drink a wee bit more of it and see what we have. But yeah, first impression of it's big, kind of green, floral, spicy component to it. Lovely smooth oatiness in the middle. And the fruits actually aren't quite as prominent as I thought they were going to be. But I think that's maybe just because of the green component. So, yeah, really interesting how this beer goes together, for sure. Yeah, let's go for this then. Let's see what we have. We'll start off in the middle third of the palate, as we always do. So, middle third of your palate, you get a lovely little bit of that kind of grainy bread crust. And I will say the bread crust is actually a lot more grainy than I was expecting from the aroma of the beer. So yeah, good little bit of grainy bread crust in there. On top of that, you actually get a little bit of a kind of brown bready character, like a wholemeal bread sort of thing. And then there's potentially, is there a little bit of Jacob's cream cracker sitting on top of that? Yeah, it's quite interesting in that way, yeah. So it's got a good little bit of it does have a good little bit of a Jacob's cream crackery sort of thing too. So this beer actually has a good little bit more dryness in the malt base than I was expecting. So yeah, grainy bread crust, wholemeal brown bread, then a more Jacob's cream crackery note, but above that you get the white bread, and like I say, it's quite a fluffy white bread, but at the same time there's a good bit of density to it, and then you can feel the wheat sitting on top of that and densifying it even further. And the wheat is smooth in the middle third of the palate, but a bit different in the back third of the palate. We'll come to that later on. But yeah, you've got this kind of layered effect in the middle third of your palate with this one. Above all of that though, you start to get the oats in this one. So the oaty layer in this beer, you've got a lovely, you do have a lovely little bit of creaminess in this one. So you can feel in the centre, down the middle line of your tongue, you've got this lovely little bit of creaminess from the oats, and it does stay creamy as it kind of creeps out toward the edge of the palate there, so you can tell this beer is pretty fresh actually. So yeah, you've got that lovely little bit of creamy oatiness there. It does give you a little bit of dryness as you reach the end, as you reach the edges of your palate. So yeah. So I do quite like how that, I really do quite like how that goes together. Yeah. So on the on the OT side of things then, on top of that, you start to get a little bit of the kind of sweeter side of the beer, but the OT side of things is quite nice, and as I say, that's quite a thick, it's one of the thicker beers I can think of that we've had from Apex. But on top of the OT layer, in the dead centre of your palate, you've got a nice little bit of a sweet caramel for sure. And then as you move further out from that, you've got a little bit of a more McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing. So yeah, a little bit of McVitie, yeah, bit of straight up sweet caramel from, and again that's covering the booziness obviously. Then you get a little touch of that Werther's Original, but this one I think that because of the Maris Otter and the fact there's no Golden Promise, you don't get so much of that Werther's Original type flavour. But then yeah, as you move further out toward the edges of the palate, you start to get a more kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing. So yeah. So yeah. I mean, this one, yeah, it goes together pretty nicely in that sense, I would say. Yeah, so let's look at the back third of the palate. I think we've said everything we need to about the middle third of the palate. So the border region between middle third and back third of your palate, you get a little bit of that bready build up there again. So that's quite nice. Then the base of the back third of the palate, you've still got the bread, the layers are kind of similar. You've got the grainy bread crust, which is more, it's even more grainy and dry, if you like. Remember, more bitter flavours come out further back on the palate, of course, and sweeter ones come out further forward. So yeah, grainy bread crust. Then you've got that wholemeal brown bready sort of thing. You've got that wholemeal brown bready sort of thing. A little bit of a Jacob's cream cracker, of course, as well. And then I would say that the brown bready layer is a little bit taller. Then you've got the white bread and the wheat sitting on top of that, and the wheat is actually quite bitey in this one, which is kind of interesting. You do get quite a little bit of bitiness out of the wheat on the back third of your palate there for sure. So yeah, nice little bit of wheaty bitiness on top of that. You've got a more airy, yeasty character to this one. So you have a wee bit of that more kind of farmhousey, light bready character with a bit of woodiness in there. So yeah, I do like how that goes together in this one for sure. That gets a thumbs up from me. Yeah, you can definitely feel on the back third of the palate the flavour is taller, and then as you come further forward, it just squashes down together and gives you that nice little bit of maltiness or whatever. So yeah, the way that this beer goes together on the malty and yeasty side of things is pretty nice. Let's focus on the hoppy side of the beer then. Back corners of the palate, there is definitely a good little bit of earthiness there. Then as you move further forward, it's a little touch herbal, and as you push toward the kind of front corners of the palate, it's got a good little bit more floral character, and it is actually quite spicy, in fairness as well. So yeah, you've got that nice little bit of spicy floral character there. Then round the front corner, the front curve of your tongue, you've got that little bit of lighter grassiness too, which I think works. Which I think works very, very nicely. So yeah, the way that this beer goes together is pretty damn nice. So yeah, good little bit of floral, spicy character there, and then round the front curve of the tongue, it's a little bit of a lighter, grassy sort of things. We said, and the grassiness actually does have a wee bit of zesty character, which is something I would expect from Cashmere, to be honest with you. But yeah, I think that covers the green component. But as I say, this beer is a good bit more bitter than I was expecting it to be. So border region between front third and middle third of your palate, again, you get a little bit of that bready build up in this one. White bready build up. Then you've got the base, which is a more kind of smooth, yeah, you've got a little bit of a more kind of smooth, soft, white bready kind of thing. And then above that, you've got that nice oily bubble where the juicy, fruity esters roll their way out of the beer. So I do like how that goes together. And yeah, this one, as I say, the fruity side of this beer is actually really nicely rounded. So at the back of that front third of your palate, you get a bit of a stronger passion fruit, and that's going to be from the citra, maybe a little touch of grapefruit as well. But as you move further forward from that, you've got an oily kind of melon type quality for sure. So yeah, good little bit of grapefruit and passion fruit in there, then a more oily melony note, which forms the base. But then on top of that, you start to get the juicier mango, which is going to be a mix of the Victoria's Secret and the citra in this one. So yeah, good little bit of melon underneath, and then the mango on top of that. As you reach the middle of that front third of your palate, you've got a more kind of pineapple-y type quality coming out of the beer, which I do quite enjoy actually. The pineapple notes are really nice. I've been getting more and more pineapple out of beers recently. Maybe I've just been awakened to this particular flavour. But yeah, as you move into the front half of that front third of your palate, the beer gets a lot more. You've got kind of oily lime there, and as you reach the front tip of your tongue, it's a bit more kind of lemony, and I think that's going to be coming from a mixture of the Cashmere and from the citra. Citra is going to, Cashmere is going to be the main one, but then citra is going to amplify it a little bit. Cashmere is quite an interesting hop because it can be very powerful. You have to be careful that you don't kind of overuse Cashmere in a lot of these beers. So yeah, Cashmere can take over the flavour of a beer. They've managed to balance it out quite well in this one with the Victoria's Secret and the citra, right enough. But yeah, you do have to be careful when you use Cashmere, definitely. But yeah, this one, it actually does find a nice balance between the kind of melon, lemon and lime on the citrusy side of things. And you've just got the tropical, juicy mango and pineapple and stuff sitting on top of that. The further into the aftertaste you go, you might get little hints of apricot and things. But yeah, the way this beer goes together, I think, is very, very nice. So yeah, gets a big thumbs up from me, I have to say. So yeah, interesting beer, definitely quite different from the other Apex ones we've had over the last wee while. Let's round off this review with the mouthfeel then. So for me, as I say, this is one of the thicker, more creamy ones I can remember having had from Apex. So yeah, top end of mid-body, bottom end of full-body, it's kind of in that region. Carbonation is very smooth. Like I said, it's quite a smooth, kind of creamy sort of New England IPA, this one, that's for sure. So yeah, I do like how that goes together, definitely. Um, and yeah, so yeah, nice little bit of mix of creaminess and things in there. And yeah, in terms of the hoppy bitterness in this beer, I think this has got to be about 50 or 60 IBUs. It just feels a little bit more bitter and floral and spicy. So there's got to have been a good little bit of early edition hop in this one. So yeah, good bit of spiciness in there. The malt base, as we said, has a good bit of graininess to it. There's a bit of smoothness in the middle, a bit of wheaty bitiness, and you've also got a wee bit of sweetness. And the fruits, I would say overall with their kind of vibe, are quite oily, but this beer, it really starts to lean more toward the kind of citrusy side of things the further into the aftertaste that you go. But yeah, the way this beer goes together, I think, is very, very nice. Yeah, I like how that goes together. I wrote flavour-wise, this is very nice. It's been a really enjoyable New England double from Apex. Wouldn't expect anything less, but yeah, this is quite different from the other ones we've had in the past. More citrusy and definitely more kind of floral and bitey for sure. More bitter, definitely. But yeah, I think we can leave it at that then. So this one was the Meridian, a New England Hazy Imperial Double IPA, whatever you want to call it, from Apex Brewing Company in Örebro. Once again, thank you for watching my reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Apex as well, and I will no doubt see you very soon with more reviews. Until the next time, slàinte, skål, and cheers. See you guys in the next review.